All right, so here we go. We are on a free class to learn about BookFunnel and how to promote your books. And super great product. Just want to say up front, I use it personally. If you don't know that about me, my ARC copies for Secrets to Writing a Fantasy came through BookFunnel. I think this January we did the ARC copies, and I was so excited about the whole process that I invited Damon here to come and talk to everybody because it really worked well for me and I want to share it with everybody else because maybe it'll work well for you too. So who am I? I am a best-selling author of the Write Novels That Sell series. I'm an award-winning fiction author, and I'm the CEO and founder of Fictionary, and Fictionary is where you are today in a free class. I'm also writing, Linda's here, Secrets to Writing a Mystery, and I'm writing Secrets to Writing Secrets to Writing a Romance with Linda, and Secrets to Writing a Mystery with Lisa, and I wrote the other secrets with Lucy. So clearly, if you want to co-author with me, your name must start with an L. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So Wilder Says, is the paper edition of the fantasy book out? Yes, it came out yesterday and it's up for sale for this week. There's a post in the community that you should be able to see, or maybe I put it in an email, but it is out. Yes. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about Fictionary Live. Tomorrow we have an event coming up. So Fictionary Live is a space within our community where we do live courses and other in-depth deep classes. And tomorrow we're doing a workshop for should you include a prologue or not, which is we're going to go over the theory and then I'm going to live tell people whether they should have a prologue in their book or not. And I've had some nice submissions already, so I'm kind of excited about it. The reason I'm entering Fictionary Live, so Fictionary Live, you can join it for $29 a month just through the community, or you can sign up to our Storyteller Premium software for $39 a month and get Fictionary Live with it. This is the money that supports the community. So I want to thank everybody who is a member of Fictionary Live on either subscription because it keeps us going. And so if you want to join, there's a great class tomorrow and then ongoing classes. Okay, I'm going to intro Damon. That was a note to myself that why is Damon here? So I'm going to stop. Oops. That says share. I'm going to stop sharing. Was I even sharing? Somebody nod. Okay, good. Didn't want to stop share. Yes, so Damon, as we already said, is here to talk to us about BookFunnel. So with Secrets to Writing a Fantasy, I went in super easy into the BookFunnel software and uploaded my book and my book description, and I had people sign in with their email list, and I ended up using several different lists for ARC readers, and it was a really great experience. And so hence, Damon is here now to talk about BookFunnel and how we can all promote our books. And even if your book is already out, you can use it. So, you know, doesn't mean you have to have an upcoming release. You can use it on existing books too. All right, Damon, over to you. I'll go on mute and let her rip.
Excellent. So I am going to do my little screen share here, and we will get started. So I've titled this talk "Building Your Book Funnel with BookFunnel" because we love alliteration over at BookFunnel, and there's no greater alliteration than literally using the same word twice. This is I will be talking about some of the features on BookFunnel specifically as they relate to book promotion. I will tell you that by and large, BookFunnel is not actually a promotion service. That's not the core of what we do. I built BookFunnel so that we could do ebook delivery. And at the time, I was building my mailing list. This was back in 2014 when I had published a fantasy trilogy, capital F, with elves and wizards. And so I needed what BookFunnel did, and it didn't exist. So I went and built it. And once I was done building it, I thought, oh, this is pretty handy. I think other people might want to use this too. That was back in 2015, and we're here. We're approaching 10 years, and we're growing more than ever. So that's the little intro to me and BookFunnel. So let's talk for a second about what is a book funnel with a space between the two words. And it's really just a variation of the marketing funnel. If you've never heard of that before, it's pretty simple. We're trying to get a lot of people in the top so that we can make them super excited and then get people at the bottom who then come along to buy our books, right? In the marketing world, that can be any product, right? But we're authors, and so we're selling books. What is BookFunnel with no space? It's me. I am the creator of BookFunnel, although we have a wonderful team. It's not just me anymore. This is just a kind of brief list of all the features that BookFunnel has and the things that we do. I'm not going to talk about all of these today, but I am happy to talk about any of them when we get to the questions. If you have specific questions, I know that Christina was talking about her delivering her ARCs with BookFunnel. That is a feature we have called Certified Mail. We do Kickstarter, Patreon fulfillment. We do digital direct sales fulfillment, all kinds of things, right? Specifically, we're going to be talking about the promotional features of BookFunnel today. But again, when we get to the questions, and I will leave lots of room for questions, I'm happy to take any questions about other BookFunnel features that we don't talk about. So why do you need a funnel, right? When we talk about the book funnel with a space and the marketing funnel, why do you need one? And it really comes down to what we call the reader journey. So the reader journey has 4 steps. The first step is they've never heard of you. Congratulations, that's 8 billion people on the planet, so you have a lot of room to grow, right? Step 2, they've read one of your books. I'm sure that all of you have experienced reading a book where you enjoyed it and you thought it was nice. You may not even remember the author's name, but you thought that was a nice book. But if we can go on and read more of their books, hopefully we can move them down the road to step 3, which is they're becoming a fan. They've become a fan of your books, right? Be it sometimes a series, but hopefully for doing our job right, they're becoming a fan of us, the author. Right? And then ultimately, we're going to go and we want to get to step 4, which is they become a super fan, right? Super fans are people that are going to buy everything that you publish until the end of time or until you stop publishing. And I promise you, I've been a lifelong reader. I can list off umpteen authors of whom I am super fans. I back all their Kickstarters. I do all of that sort of stuff. And I'm sure that all of you have authors of whom you are super fans. But I do want to tell you one little story about super fandom. So who knows who this young lady is? For the older people in the audience, that's Selena Gomez. No, I'm kidding. That's Taylor Swift. And so she is absolutely masterful at creating rabid super fans of her fans, people that start listening to her music and then eventually go on to become Swifties. Swifties are the name that they gave themselves, by the way. She does not call her fans Swifties. They call themselves that. And here's a good hint if you're making super fans. If your fans have given themselves their own nickname, you're on the right path. So this is a little story of, this is me and my wife, Julie, who runs BookFunnel with me. This is back in June of 2023, and we went to see the Eras Tour in Los Angeles. And at that point in time, I would say that I was a fan of Taylor Swift. I'd heard a lot of her music, and I thought, oh, she's really talented. I really like her. And then my wife, who had probably heard, maybe half a dozen of her songs, including Shake It Off like 1,000 times when our girls were little, but really was not a fan, but likes going to concerts with me. And so there we were, right? If you didn't get to go to the Eras Tour, it's over now. I'm sorry you really missed it. But if you didn't get to go to the Eras Tour, they really, over the years that she was doing this, over the 2 years that she was running this tour, it turned into like a mini Renaissance festival where people would dress up in costumes and all hand out beads and bracelets and all sorts of things, right? And so you can see back in 2023, here I am in just a plain old t-shirt, and we were just dressed to go to a show. My wife, again, not a fan at all, had heard some of her music, so was like step 2 of the reader journey. I was what I would consider a fan, but I was not at all a super fan until we went to the Eras Tour. And then, like, you can't not see this woman perform for 3 hours and just crush it and not walk away going, wow, she's really incredible. So over the next year, we listened to so much more of her music that I hadn't listened to, and eventually became super fans, to the point that when we went to the Eras Tour again the following October, here we are, and you'll notice we are now dressed up. That is me in the full red Reputation bodysuit that my wife made for me, and then you can't really see from her outfit, but my wife is in a a completely bedazzled jacket that she stuck every rhinestone on and took 100 hours to make. Because we are now Swifties, huge Swifties and super fans, right? And that is what we're talking about, and that's where we want to get our readers to. And in case you were curious, yes, I also have the Reputation bodysuit in gold. This was us in Vancouver. So, how do you make super fans, right? How do we get out there and get our books in front of fans and move them down that reader journey? Cat pictures are the best thing for making super fans. No, I'm kidding. Stories, which is fantastic because you're authors, and so stories is what you do best. And what we want to do, what we're trying to do, is when a reader gets to the first step of the journey, or I'm sorry, the second step, where they have now read something of ours, we want to do everything that we can to keep moving them along through our work. By short stories, novellas, the continuing series, other books that we've written, right? We want to do that. We want to because that's how we're going to move them down that road to fan and then ultimately to super fan. So the things we're going to talk about today, I'm not going to go over each of these bullet points, but this is what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to go through each of these points. I move kind of fast, but I promise this is all being recorded, so I'm sure you'll be able to go back and watch the replay and maybe even slow me down. It's the ADHD, I promise. But I am going to talk about these points, and we're going to get through a lot of this stuff. So you'll notice that the first step in this path is to finish your book. And I always start with this because I don't want people going away from my talks and going, so, well, Damon from BookFunnel said that I need to set up a mailing list. No, 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 no. Damon from BookFunnel said finish your book first. Because if you don't have a book, then you don't have anything to sell. And ultimately, that is what all of this is talking about. We're going to be talking about promotion and even giving away some things for free. But all of that is part of the funnel that leads people through to buying our books. So if you don't have a book yet, if you haven't finished it, I'm not saying that you can't start thinking about all of these other things that I'm going to talk about, but ultimately your step one is to finish your book. And the next step is going to be you're going to write a reader magnet. And I want to talk really briefly because the terms are sometimes used interchangeably. I tend to use them to the two terms, reader magnet and lead magnet, separately. And a reader magnet is really something for someone who has already read something of yours. So they're already on step 2 of that reader journey. And so they're already a reader of yours in that they have consumed something of your content. And so we're going to talk about each of these and how to make them and what works best. A lead magnet is more the marketing term, and it really is, this is a lead, right? Somebody who has never read your stuff. They don't even know who you are, but they're interested in you, right? You know, you go to the home shows and they sign you up to, buy gutters, and like you're a lead now. That doesn't mean that you are going to go off and buy the gutters, but maybe you will. And that's what we want to get to. So the next step after you finish your book, step 1, step 2 is to write a reader magnet. So a reader magnet is really just I probably should put in a little slide. Like, what is a reader magnet? A reader magnet is really just a free thing, a story, a novella, something small that you're going to offer to readers to join your newsletter, right? And that's really kind of where we're going with all of this, is we're trying to get more readers onto our newsletter, because the more you can talk to readers, the easier it's going to be to make super fans. If you're the kind of author who can crank out books as fast as you possibly can, and you're putting out a book a month, maybe you don't need to do some of this kind of stuff, but I'd be willing to bet that most of us are not at that level and are not able to do that. So the more that we can talk directly to our readers, the easier it is going to be to make those super fans. Because I'll tell you what, talking and getting to know your readers and letting them get to know you a little bit absolutely makes fans, right? Some of the biggest authors in the world are also some of the nicest people who happen to be really great at making people like them and want to read more of their books. So a reader magnet is just a free thing that we're going to offer up. And this was originally why I built BookFunnel, right? So at its core, This was what BookFunnel was built for. I had a reader magnet. I'd set out to write a 2,000 word short story, and I wrote a 25,000 word novella because I write fantasy, and that's what we do with everything. And so I had this novella in my hand, and I thought, oh, this is great. I want to go and give this thing away. And BookFunnel didn't exist at the time, and I needed something and some way to deliver it. So that was why BookFunnel, and we do so much more now, but that at the core, that's what it started with. So what makes a great reader magnet? Short stories are fantastic. They're quick to write for most people, but even if you're not a terribly fast writer, you can probably write 1 to 2,000 words in a day or two. You can make them part of your world. There's a little Disney earworm for everybody. You don't have to, when this is a reader magnet, again, a reader magnet is what we are writing for somebody who has already read some of our stuff. So you don't have to. I use fantasy a lot as examples, but I don't have to explain to you in this short story how my magic system works. You've already read one of my books. You know how that works. So I can have a nice 1,000, 2,000 word short story, and you're going to get it without a lot of context. And short stories can work as a lead magnet, but they have to be written a little bit differently. And so I'm going to talk about that in a little bit when we get to the lead magnet section about what makes a great lead magnet. Bonus chapters make fantastic reader magnets. You'll find a lot of authors, particularly in romance and fantasy and science fiction, that do this, ending the book in a very satisfying way. So do not ever rug pull your readers and say, "Oh, this is the end." But if you really want the end, you have to go join my newsletter. Don't do that. That's a bait and switch. You give readers the full story, but at the end of the story, you would say, "Oh, if you want to know what happens a year later, I have an extended epilogue or a bonus chapter that you can read, and you can read for free just by joining my mailing list." So again, doesn't have to be very long. They're typically a short story length, 1,000 words. I've seen some even less. And so they are quicker to write. It's really easy to write a custom reader magnet for every one of your books so that no one escapes your funnel. This is something like Lucy Score, who is a big romance author. She does this with every one of her books. She knows now when she goes to write her book, she plans and knows what the bonus chapter is going to be at the end of every book, so that every book of hers that you read, no matter which Lucy Score book you pick up, you're going to get to the end and there's going to be a sign up link to get on her newsletter, and it's going to give you a bonus chapter. She has built a huge rabid fan base from doing this technique. So they're very, very high engagement, because who gets to the end of the story and then they like it, and then you're offering a bonus chapter. Well, who doesn't want to read that? What's really great is they're actually perfect at attracting exactly the kind of reader that you want, because you get to the end of a book and you didn't like it very much. You're not likely to want to go and read the bonus chapter. You didn't like the book very much, which means that the people who land on your list, who downloaded your bonus chapter, some very important pieces of data. Number one, they've already read your book, because they couldn't have gotten to that landing page and signed up for that bonus chapter otherwise. Two, they liked your book, because they probably wouldn't have gotten the bonus chapter if they didn't like it. And three, they are the kind of person who is happy to give over their email address to hear more from you, to get more stories from you. So it's really good. These bonus chapters are great for attracting fans and not people who are just looking for free books, right? It's no good to you if you haven't read the book, if it's a bonus chapter that ends after the book. Another little bonus of bonus chapters, you can reuse your cover, right? So if you've already paid for a big, beautiful cover, you can take that beautiful cover, slap a little red label on it that says bonus chapter, and boom, you're done. Hooray, no more money. So that's really good. Bonus chapters make a terrible lead magnet, though. Remember, lead magnets are people that have never read any of your stuff. So again, these bonus chapters, not meaningful to someone who has never read the book before. So you would have to go on and write something different as a lead magnet. And then prequel novellas. These work really, really well, especially in fantasy science fiction, where you tend to have longer running series and long stories. If you're doing it right, this novella should lead into the book or the series that you're trying to sell, so that if somebody goes, and no matter how somebody consumes the novella, they are immediately tempted to go on and read book one. right? Some people have already read book one and then go back to read the prequel, and that's great. That's just more story for them. But if they haven't, if they've gotten your prequel as a lead, then it's going to lead into book one and hopefully entice them to go on and buy book one. Series readers love more stories. So the more backstory, the more context that you can give them, they always love that. So once again, if I've read book one, I get to the end and the newsletter sign up says, hey, find out what happens on the first time these two crazy characters met, their first adventure, their first story. The people who sign up for that loved the book and wanted to go back and read more of it. They wanted to learn more about your world and your characters. And prequel novellas can work great as a lead magnet because it appeals to new readers, right? So these prequels can be great as lead magnets too, because they lead into the series, even if the reader hasn't read it yet. So a few other notes about reader magnets. Keep it under, even if you're writing a novella, keep it under 12,000 words. You don't need to spend more time on it than this. And in fact, there can be great benefits to having a shorter work. Readers oftentimes are looking for new authors to explore. And it's a really easy ask to say, hey, it's a 10,000, 8,000 word novella that you can read, because what you're trying to do is show them that if you read this novella or this short story and you like what you see here, then you're going to like my books and you should come with me on this journey because you're going to enjoy it. And that's anytime a reader is looking at a new author, that's what they're trying to discover. Are you the author for me? Are you somebody that I'm going to enjoy reading for how many thousands or millions of words? Or are you just going to make me mad and I don't want to read your books? So your reader magnet should absolutely convey what is in your books, right? What people are going to find when they get there. And if you're short on time, go with a prequel novella because you can use it as both the reader and the lead magnet. I flipped those. And we'll go on and we'll talk about lead magnets in a little bit. Once you have a reader magnet, right? Whatever that is, whatever we've just talked about, once you have a reader magnet in hand, you're going to set up your mailing list. I am not going to detail this. There are way more details than we could possibly go through in this talk. I will recommend, however, most authors signing up for BookFunnel these days are using MailerLite. I don't get a kickback from them. I have no reason to recommend them other than that's what a lot of authors are using because they're free to get started up to 1,000 subscribers. They do a really good job. So if you really don't have any personal opinions on it, they're great to get started with. This guide, the Strategic Author's Guide to MailerLite by Erica Everest, you can pick it up on Amazon. You can pick it up everywhere for a couple of bucks. Again, no kickbacks. It's a great book. She has a lot of pictures. She uses a lot of pictures on how everything is set up. So I would highly recommend this if you don't already have a mailing list and you're looking to get one set up. Once you have a mailing list set up, you're going to write your welcome email. Also, again, don't have the time to detail that here. I will tell you, though, that the best book on the subject is Newsletter Ninja, and it's by Tammy Labrecque. It's a fantastic book. And it's one that I do highly recommend. And in fact, there will be a link. It's actually on almost all of these slides, but I'll have it at the end too for everybody. If you go to that link that I have throughout these slides, BookFunnel will buy you a copy of Newsletter Ninja. We love it that much. And this will talk about how to write your welcome email. It's a fantastic book. It is not teaching you how to set up a mailing list. It literally is teaching you how to talk to readers so that you don't sound like you're a big smarmy salesperson. Which is something that some of us probably need to work on. So BookFunnel will buy you a copy of this book, and it's well worth reading if you haven't read it already. So I use this and I say to add a call to action to your books before you publish. But even if you've already published, no big deal. If you're an indie author, you can just go back and change the back matter in your books, and you can push up new versions of the books. But a call to action is when people read to the end of the book and the book is finished, there's a thing at the end that says, hey, I hope you enjoyed the book. If you would like to read more, you can join my newsletter. I have a bonus chapter you can read if you join my newsletter. Whatever your pitch is, that is your call to action at the end of the book. That is where you want readers to go when they get to the end of your book. And it's important that you have it in all of your books, even if it's the same, even if you had a series of 6 books and each one offered the same prequel novella reader magnet. It doesn't matter. You don't know when a reader is going to join your list. It might not be after book one. They might read book one and go, that was nice. I'll give book two a try. I'm not interested in joining your newsletter yet, but I'll give book two a try. Usually by the time somebody's book two or book three into a series, they're already well on their way toward becoming a fan. And at that point, they go back and they download the prequel novella and they join your newsletter. And that's what all of this is for. And then once you've published, it's time to start finding new readers. And this is where we're going to get into lead magnets and BookFunnel's actual promotional tools. I promise we're going to get to the BookFunnel part. So the next step, write a lead magnet if your reader magnet won't work. If you've already written a prequel novella, congratulations, you have a great lead and a reader magnet, and you don't have to write a second thing. If you're using something like a bonus chapter as your reader magnet, that is not going to make a good lead magnet. So then you really need to think about what would make a good lead magnet. And that's going to vary a lot by your genre, right? We are recording this for Fictionary, so I'm assuming that most of you are fiction writers. There are a lot of great reader magnets. We have tons of nonfiction authors on BookFunnel as well, but I'm specifically dealing with fiction authors here. So then what makes a great lead magnet? Again, remember, the lead magnet is going to somebody who has no idea who you are. They've never read your books as an author. They might not have ever even heard your name before. So the lead magnet is trying to entice them to try you out as a new author. Short stories, again, can make a fine lead magnet. You want it to lead into your books and introduce your books in some way so that when they read the short story and they get to the end, they are immediately excited about going on to read the story, to read the first book in your series or to read whichever book you're promoting. You can do this by introducing your characters, by introducing your world, by giving them enough information that they are excited to find out what's going to happen next with these characters or what's going to happen next in this story. And you really want to show off to readers, again, what kind of writing you do. If you happen to write romance, a horror short story is a terrible lead magnet. You want to make sure that you are telegraphing to readers, hey, if you liked this short story, read my books, you're going to love them, right? And make it a complete story. This is a lead. Don't do the thing. This is where things like samples don't work very well. Readers, at least from our experience on BookFunnel, readers feel like samples are a bait and switch, right? So you had the cover and they thought they were getting a complete story, and then they only get 3 chapters of your book. That can work for your existing fans, right? Your existing fans absolutely want the first 3 chapters of the new book you haven't published yet. But for readers who've never experienced you before, that's a bad experience. You want to give them a full, complete story that also leads into the books that you're writing. Prequel novellas. We already talked about them, but I'm going to reiterate again. This is where they work extremely well as a lead magnet. They lead into your book. They lead into your existing series. If you do the novella right, it should give them some setup of the story, but leave them not with a cliffhanger, but a question. Some questions that are going to be answered in your first book. And then this is one I talked about briefly, but novellas don't require a huge commitment from new readers. So remember, we're talking about leads, people who've never read your stuff before. And what you're trying to convince them of is that they should give you a try as a new author. The sad reality in 2025 is there are millions of books being published out there every year now. And so we need to give them something small, something bite-sized that they can try and go, oh, I like this person's writing. I really like this. I definitely want to go on and read their books and read the rest of the story. And that is what we're trying to do. So a couple of notes. Don't bonus chapters and deleted scenes. Terrible lead magnets. They're not valuable if you've never read the books, right? It's like watching a deleted scene from a movie I've never seen. I have no context. It's meaningless to me. So bonus chapters are great reader magnets. Deleted scenes can be great reader magnets. They're really great for your super fans though. Super fans absolutely love getting insight into their author's head and knowing that the story could have gone a completely different direction, but I deleted this whole chapter because it wasn't working, but I wanted you guys to see where it almost went. Superfans love that stuff, right? And then I will say for your lead magnet, if you do not use a cheap cover. I see this a lot where because it's a thing you're going to give away for free, authors immediately go, well, I'm giving it away for free, so I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. It doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money on a cover, but don't slap something in Microsoft Paint and call that a book cover. Instead, make sure that you get a professional cover done for it, because for a lot of readers, this is going to be the first time they ever interact with you as an author. They've never seen you before, they've never heard of you, and the first thing they're going to see from you is that book cover. So it's all about the steps that are going to lead them to ultimately getting on your newsletter and downloading your lead magnet. Once you have the lead magnet in place, now we get to the actual BookFunnel part. You're going to use BookFunnel group promos. This is one of our biggest and most popular features, and it's the biggest feature that we have for promotions. So what group promos do is allow you to work with other authors in your genre. If you go to the promo board on BookFunnel, you can browse through thousands and thousands of promos that are running right now, but you can narrow them all down to the genres that you write in, and I would strongly recommend you do so. Because what you're really looking for is other authors that write in your genres, because you want to get your books, your lead magnet in this case, in front of the readers. You want to get them in front of readers who've never heard of you. That's important. That's the point of the group promos. But more importantly, you want to get them in front of the right readers. If I write space opera and you write space opera and 30 other people in this promo all write space opera, guess what their readers read? It's not small town romance. It's space operas. So I'm going to get my lead magnet, which is also space opera, in front of a bunch of space opera readers. And more importantly, it's not just that those readers are space opera readers. They are readers who read in my genre. They are readers who are already on other authors' mailing lists. And they are readers who click links when those emails go out. Those are very important data points. And that means that anybody joining your list is already predisposed to like the books that you're writing. So we want to get our lead magnet in front of them so that we can hopefully entice them to go on and buy our series. And using group promos, you can build a small loyal list very, very quickly. You'll find that if you join BookFunnel and then jump in, start looking for promos in your genres and just join a couple of them, you can build up a very small, you can build up a list pretty quickly with several hundred readers who have now got your lead magnet and hopefully are then going on to read them and then buy the books and go through the funnel, right? That's the work. And then once you've done group promos, the next feature that we're going to talk about, I can talk a lot more about this, but I'd like to sort of reserve it for questions so that we can kind of get through all of the boilerplate stuff, and then I can take specific questions. Once you've done some group promos and you've joined in and you've gotten some readers, the other promotional feature we have on BookFunnel are author swaps. Author swaps are, so in a group promo, you might be in a promotion with 10, 20, 30, 100 other authors in your genre. Author swaps are one-on-one. I'm going to send your book to my list if you send my book to your list, right? And so it's the same kind of thing. You're looking for other authors on the BookFunnel swap board. You can go narrow the swaps down and search for authors that are specifically writing in your genres. So I can find space opera authors. Hey, great. That means that your fans, your readership is already going to like what I'm writing. So working with other authors in your specific genre and finding the right authors for your books. You can, when you look at the swaps board, not only will you see the author's name and the genres that they're writing in, you can actually click on their swap and see all of the books that they are willing to swap with. Do they match your covers, right? Do they have good covers? If you don't think their covers are good, then your readers are probably not going to think their covers are good, and maybe you don't want to swap with that person. Do they match your covers? Are they actually in the genres? You can even open up most of the books in a swap and sample them. You can read samples of those books and go, yeah, my readers are a little more discerning with the writing. This may be not as a good swap for me. So you want to be a little bit more selective, as author swaps tend to be a little bit more personal. If I send out a link and I say, hey, I'm in this great promotion with some other space opera authors, and there's 50 other books in there, I don't think any of my readers expect that I've read all 50 of those books and I'm personally recommending them. Even in an author swap, I'm not personally recommending this person's book, but if I'm sending an email to my newsletter and saying, hey, here's a book that by author such and such that I think you guys might like, I can even say I haven't read it yet, but I flipped through it and I'm really excited. I think you guys are really going to like it. So it is a little bit more it feels a little bit more personal because you're recommending one book at a time. So you want to be selective and make sure that you are recommending the right books. If you write sweet, clean romance, make sure that that book is not super steamy. Your readers are not going to appreciate a suggestion like that. And for author swaps, you're going to need a list, even if it's small, to get started. Most authors that are doing individual swaps, they want to make sure there's some reciprocity. So I'll share with my list, but I want to make sure when you share with your list that I'm going to at least get some readers in return. This is why I recommend joining group promos first. Group promos are very open and welcoming to new authors. You can join even if you have no list, if you have no readers at all. They're very welcoming. You can jump in on all that sort of stuff. Then once you've started to build a list, you can start reaching out to other individual authors. And there are authors on BookFunnel that use both. And there are authors that only use one or the other. So you're actually targeting different audiences. You're going to find authors that do swaps that have never done group promos before because they prefer that individual recommendation sort of touch, right? So we've got group promos, we've done author swaps, and then the next thing is not really related to BookFunnel, although it can be, and that's we're going to start marketing with promos and author swaps. And the reason we do that, and the reason I list these in order, is so that you can perfect your funnel, right? Here's how this works. You join a group promo. You write space opera. Keep saying space opera. So you write small town romance. And so you joined a promo with 30 other authors and you write small town romance. You can, once you join the promo, you can see how many people have come through that promo, how many readers have come through that promo. You can see how many clicks your book cover has gotten from those readers in comparison to all the other authors that are in that promo. If there's a promo and every other author in the promo is getting on average 50 clicks on their book cover and you've got 5, you have a book cover problem. Your book cover is not standing up like the rest of those book covers are, and you may need to rethink your book cover. If, however, you are getting the same amount, or you're getting average, or you're even getting more than the other authors in that promo, you know that your book cover is doing the right job. It's attracting readers and they want to click on it. So then they click on that. They click on your book cover and it pops up a little thing and says, hey, you can get a free copy of this it doesn't say reader magnet, but you can get a free copy of this story. Just sign up with your email address. Now, if you are getting 100 clicks on your book cover and only one person signs up to get the book, then your tagline and your title and your blurb are not doing a very good job. If you have a 1% conversion rate on the people that clicked on that book cover, 1% is not a great conversion rate. If, however, you're getting a 40 or 50% conversion rate, hooray! Your all of your text is doing the right job, right? And all of these pieces are what we talk about when we talk about the funnel. That's why it gets narrower and narrower as it goes down towards the bottom. So the first thing they're going to see is your book cover. If your book cover is doing the job right, they're going to click on it. They click on the book cover. If your tagline is doing the job right, it's the first thing that they see when they land on that landing page on BookFunnel, that big tagline across the top. If your tagline is doing the job right, then they read down and they want to go down to the next step. If your title is good, your book description that's down under the bottom, if all of that is working, your conversions are going to be doing great. And you want to make sure that you perfected that funnel before you move on to the next step, which is doing paid promotions. So paid promotions are literally what it sounds like. There are lots of services out there that do them. These are just some that I've listed, kind of showing you what they are. But this is real money. This is money that you're going to pay to join in some of these promotions. So you want to make sure that you have used the tools on BookFunnel to build your funnel out and perfect it so that all of those things are firing on all cylinders before you go and you start spending money like this. And paid promotions it can work really, really well, even if you only have one book out, right? So even if you're starting small, some of these promotional services are fairly inexpensive to get started with. I don't list BookBub here because if you can land a BookBub, God bless, take it, right? But that's going to be, $800 or $1,000. It's worth it, but they're still very expensive. So I tried to list some here that are more like beginner services that you can start using. And I can talk, if anybody has any questions specifically about these, I can talk about them. No relation to BookFunnel whatsoever, just trying to give you some of the information. But once you started doing some of these smaller paid promotions, the next step moves into ads. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's actually, unless you have a decent backlist, it's probably not worth it for you to spend money building on ads. Facebook, Amazon ads in particular, you can absolutely just light your money on fire if you don't know what you're doing. And they really, really work better when you have 2 or 3 or more books, because every dollar that you spend is multiplied by the number of books that you have. So if I can get you, if I have one book to sell and I'm paying for ads to get you to buy that one book, all I can sell you is that one book. If I've got an 8-book series, I know that I can even lose money getting you to buy the first book, because your some portion of that is going to then go on to read book 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I've got a whole series to sell you. So I mentioned ads. This would be the next step. Once you have gotten the funnel in place and you've started doing some paid promotions, advertising is sort of the top level of becoming an author, and it really is a part that you're going to need to get to know if you want to reach the level of being a full-time author in this century. But again, the more important thing is write the next book. That's if you don't already have a decent backlist, I wouldn't even step into advertising yet. I would spend your effort writing the next book, because the more books that you have out there, the more content you have out there in the world, the more that you can multiply all of these dollars that you're spending, right? If you go and you get a promo, let's say you make your first book free and you go do a free Booksy promo. Great. Bunch of people download the free book and it's fantastic. If they get to the end of that book and you've got 5 more books in the series to sell them, then giving away the first book is perfectly fine. That's the magnet that you gave away so that you would then get those people to go on and buy 5 more books. If you give away book 1 and you only have book 1, well, then all you did is give away a bunch of free books and you're not going to make any money off of that. So writing the next book. Once you've put some of these things in place, here's the bad part. You have to talk to your readers. And I know you writers, there are a lot of introverts out there, and I get it. I obviously am not an introvert, if you haven't figured that part out. But my wife is one. I'm well versed in the care and feeding of introverts. You're going to have to talk to your readers. And this is probably the biggest mistake that I see authors making when they do sign up for BookFunnel and they start doing group promos and they start doing author swaps. And that is, they start building this list and then they don't ever reach out and talk to them. I promise that it's going to be very, very difficult for you to make super fans if you're not at least reaching out and talking to your readers. So at least once a month, right? Once you start building a mailing list, email them once a month. Right? It doesn't have to be more than that. We've done surveys with readers. You can do more. Some readers like more, some readers like less, but for sure, at least once a month, or they're going to forget who you are. The worst thing you could do is start building a newsletter and then 6 months later, email everybody to tell them that you have a new book out. They have no idea who you are. You haven't talked to them in 6 months. They don't even remember how they got on your list in the first place. So at least once a month, you want to send out an email. Don't just talk about the next book. If all you ever have to, look, I'm not the fastest writer in the world, but if all you ever have to email them is that you're still working on book 4 and you're still working on book 4, George R. R. Martin, we're tired of hearing it. Like, we don't need to hear about how you're still working on it. Talk about something else. This is where, finding things, you don't have to be personal, right? If you've ever been if you're on a lot of authors' mailing lists, some of them get very personal. They talk about their medical issues. They talk about their personal lives, whatever. You can do that if you want to. Some readers like that. Some readers are turned off by it, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to be that author who just shares everything about yourself with the world in order to make super fans. But you do have to talk to them. I find some of the authors lists that I'm on, they share the books that they're reading, right? So just with every monthly email, it's like, here's what I'm reading this month, or here's what I read this month. Loved this, love this. This one was okay. So excited about this upcoming book. I read fantasy. All the authors' mailing lists that I'm on, they're all fantasy authors. And I trust their opinion. I read your books because I like them. So if you say this book is good, that's probably going to be good. And I'm always looking for more books to read. And if you really have no idea what to write, if you really just can't bring yourself to contact your readers and write something really, genuine every month. Again, Newsletter Ninja is a great book that talks about all of this stuff. Write them a short story. right? If you really don't know what else to write, sit down every month, write a 2,000 word short story, and send everybody an email. And here's where you can say, "Hey, I'm still working on book 4. I had a great idea for one of the characters. I know such and such is a favorite character of a lot of you guys. I wrote a quick short story that I thought you guys would love. Here it is. I sent it to everybody can get it for free." And readers will absolutely love you. No one is ever going to be mad that you gave them more stories, but it will help to move those readers down that journey. Like, look, every one of my authors that I get little bonus things from, it just makes me love them a little bit more, right? And so that's what we're talking about when we say talk to readers. And if all else fails, if you really can't think of anything else to write and send in an email, then I highly recommend cat pictures. This is my cat. This is Colby Jack. And that tongue sticks out most of the times. He was born with a little snaggle tooth down here. So that tongue is actually out most of the time. So wrap it up. Finish your book. I said it, and I'm going to say it again. Finish your book. Write a reader magnet, right? This is going to go at the end of your book. You're going to put a call to action at the end of your book. You're going to set up a mailing list. You're going to write a welcome email. You're going to go get a free copy of Newsletter Ninja because BookFunnel is going to buy you a copy if you haven't already read it. You're going to put a call to action in the back of your book or books. If you already have books out there, great. Go back and edit them and add a new call to action once you've written that wonderful reader magnet. You're going to write you're going to write a lead magnet or use your reader magnet if it's possible. And then you're going to get a BookFunnel account. You're going to join group promos. You're going to start doing some author swaps. And then once you have more books out there and you're ready, you're going to move on to paid advertising. So I'm going to take questions now. I do want to note that link right there has not only has the link to download your copy of Newsletter Ninja, it also has a copy of that checklist that we just saw. And then it has a link to Erica Everest's setting up Strategic Author's Guide to MailerLite. It also has a coupon for the Fictionary audience there that is valid through the end of August that will get you $50 off your first year of BookFunnel. And I'm happy to take questions. I will say I'm not going to read the chat, so Christina is going to look at it and read the questions for me.
That's my job. I got a job.
I have ADHD and it's far too distracting for me.
Nope.
I can't keep up with it.
I will totally take care of it. This was fantastic. I took 2 pages of notes.
Yay!
Yay, yes.
I always say, I know when I do talks in person, I go to conferences. I always say, I know my talks that the information is good when I can see the tops of everybody's head. So when I look out and I see everybody doing this, then I know that the information is good.
Fantastic. So we've got questions from Bert, from Cindy, from Claire, from Todd. So I'm going to go back to those first before we go to new questions. Carla's saying, can you put the link in?
Yes, I'm going to go put it in the chat.
Did it. You don't even have to do it. Linda O'Donnell is a superstar. She's our kindness ambassador for anyone who doesn't know that. And so she's done it already. All right. So let me just go up and find Bert's first question because she had the first question way up here. Look at all this chit chat. Here we are. Okay. Bert says, I already have a question. This was very early. My promo person wants to know about group promos through BookFunnel. So Bert has just come out with her latest book. She writes horror. Her cover's fantastic. And her promo person says a reader magnet with BookFunnel needs a source to garner email signups. I'm not sure what the question is.
So I'm not sure, but I think it's basically a question about how to get started with this. So you write horror, so write a horror reader magnet. So the cool thing about horror is it doesn't actually have to lead into your book. So, oftentimes horror is not a series. They tend to be more standalone, though they can be a series. If your horror is a series, I would absolutely write a reader magnet that leads into the series in some way, either by introducing the whatever evil, the greater evil, or whatever it is. If it's just, pure raw horror, then I would seriously consider just writing a horror short story. The great thing about horror readers is they just love to read horror. Like, it doesn't matter that the short story is completely unrelated to the book, because what you're actually trying to show off to horror readers is whether you're the kind of horror writer that they want to read. So horror short stories are super popular. I would say horror audiences are one of those few that really love short stories, whereas like romance, very rarely. In romance, short stories almost have to be bonus chapters related to the book, or readers are not interested in them at all. But in horror, no, you can write a great, really creepy story in like 2 or 3 thousand words. And what you have telegraphed to those readers is, hey, if you dig this, you're going to like my brand of horror. If you are doing a series, I would strongly suggest writing a reader magnet that leads into the series in some way if you can. Does that and then once you have the reader magnet, you go jump on BookFunnel and you go browse through the horror promos. There are lots of them up there.
I think what Cindy wanted to know that she wanted me to ask you was if I did a group promotion, would people be signing up for my newsletter
Mhm.
directly? That
Yeah.
was her question.
Yeah. So the way
So
group
we
promos, yeah, go. I'm sorry. Go
would
ahead.
be getting those names.
Yes. So
Okay.
the way group promos work, so there are lots of laws all over the world, but most of them are pretty clear. When you're joining, when you're in a group promo, there's one landing page that will have all of the book covers on the page. The readers will look through all of the books and decide which ones they want to sign up for. They are not signing up to get all of them, and then all the email addresses are shared with everybody. First of all, that's illegal in most of the states and all of Europe. So what you're doing is when they see your book, this is why I say your book cover has to be on point. In the case of horror, like you got to creep them out a little bit. If all of those things are on point, they're signing up for your list specifically. They want your story and they want to be on your list, and they might choose, half a dozen other authors in that promo that they also want to pick up their stories and they look good. But it is not a shared thing where everybody's getting everybody's email address. You're getting the email addresses of the readers who specifically wanted to read your story.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Fantastic. All
great
right. So
question.
the next question is from Cindy, we're sticking on the genre theme. So we've talked about horror, we've talked about romance, and now it is, if I wrote a cozy mystery, does my
Mhm.
lead magnet prequel introducing my protagonist need to be a mystery story?
Yes. Again, setting the expectations, right? The worst thing that you can do is readers read your lead magnet or your reader magnet and it doesn't set the right expectations for what they're going to get in your books. I would strongly recommend that you give them a mystery. Make it a short mystery, right? It doesn't have to be, it maybe could be the first, if your book is the first case that they've ever done, go back and give them a story about some smaller case that they solved that they didn't even realize was a case at the time when they were doing it. But yes, I would generally say whatever genre you're in, if you write in romance, then your lead magnet should have some kind of romance to it. If you write in horror, you should absolutely be writing a lead magnet that shows off your horror chops. So the same kind of thing. You want to show off your mystery chops, but it can be a super short mystery. It doesn't have to be a whole other book. And it can lead in, can show off your protagonist, and then, like I said, just give them some small mystery that shows like how this person is going to solve the crimes or solve the mysteries that come up later in the series.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. And welcome, Deborah. She says, newbie here. Do I understand correctly that we upload our ebook to BookFunnel and any security concerns, that's hard to say together, security
Mm.
concerns here or problems if we publish through Amazon?
So I would guess that you're probably, I'm not entirely sure which part of the question you're asking about. Um, BookFunnel handles the delivery to everybody's reader device. And so we have, if you're worried about security, we have features like watermarking and things that we mark the files with as they go out so that we know who they went to and where they came from. In general, security is not a huge problem when it comes to reader magnets because, you know, people go out, pirates are out there stealing books all the time, right? Reader magnets aren't really that valuable to most of the pirating industry. So we don't generally see a lot of that, but BookFunnel has lots of security features built in depending on the sort of level that you want to protect your stories in your books.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. So my first book that I had published, I received emails from people who'd stolen my book to
Mhm.
sell it to me. So I called my publisher and talked to them and said, what do I do about this? And they said, absolutely nothing, because as soon as we complain about that, that site goes down and another site goes up. So forget about it, move on. And you think, okay, I guess I will.
It's hard. The injustice of it is just grating.
It
But
is, it is.
the truth is that there's no way for anyone to stop it. Look, I mean, we get requests all the time at BookFunnel to our support team saying, "Hey, my book was pirated. Can you tell me if it came from BookFunnel?" And I think twice in 10 years did it come from
Yep.
BookFunnel. They all come from Amazon. And that's not a knock on Amazon. They're the largest bookstore in the world. So guess where most of the pirated books are going to come from? The
Right.
minute you publish your book on Amazon, I mean, the minute you publish your book on Amazon, it's pirated. So there's almost no way to avoid it. I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about it.
See, I had to get used to that too. It made me cry at first, and now I think, yeah, okay, fine. So
It's
with that, we're going to go on to Todd's question. Could you expand on the last book club you referenced, the expensive but valuable one?
Um, oh, you're talking about BookBub. Yeah, so BookBub is what we call in the industry the golden ticket, right? The Wonka ticket. BookBub is you submit your book for inclusion, and you can go if you just go and look at their website, you can see. But they have different genres and they have different readers in all those genres. And basically, BookBub just has a massive mailing list of readers who are looking for great books. And so you go and you apply for so most of all the services that I pointed out, you pay your fee and you're in, right? $40, $50 and you're into the promo. BookBub doesn't work that way. BookBub is very selective. They only send out about 4 or 5 books a day, and they have a list a mile long. So you submit your book for inclusion, and then you hopefully get accepted. You probably will have to submit many, many times to get accepted. BookBub's pretty good about telling you why you weren't accepted. So they might even tell you, yeah, your cover is really not up to par with the other covers in your genre, or they might give you some tips about how you could make your submission better so that you might be included next time. But in general, like if you get accepted for a BookBub, you take it because it will absolutely land you lots and lots of new readers. It will get your book in front of a massive audience of readers who read the genre that you're writing in. And that's really what we're all kind of talking about today with promotions.
Yeah. Okay, so Cindy says, any short story I use to keep my newsletter followers interested, I put in BookFunnel and provide a link. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I tell you what you can do. And the reason I like, so we have several authors that do monthly short stories, right? And so those go out, you upload the story to BookFunnel, just the EPUB file, BookFunnel sends and then you create a link and you send that link to your readers and everybody can go and download it. We even have a great feature called restricted landing pages where you can create a page that when somebody lands on it and they click to go and get the book, they have to verify their email address is on your list. And so BookFunnel will reach out and check and go, yep, that person's on your list. Here's your copy of the story. And then if they're not on your list, they go, hey, you're not on the list. You don't get the story. But if you click here, you can sign up for my list and get my story. So you can even do that. What's really cool is that every short story that you write, you don't have to make it. You can give it to your list for free as you write them, but that doesn't have to be the only place that you put it. We have authors that do either a short story every month or even one every other month. And at the end of the year, they box them all up in an anthology and they slap it up on Amazon and everywhere else. So every piece of content you create is one more piece of content that you can sell out there in the world. You can give it to your fans for free and just say, hey, I have this it's a short story. I thought you guys would love it. Here's a copy. But once it's out there for your fans, you're not under any obligations to keep it free forever. You can then take it and box it up and put it up on for the rest of the world to buy.
Nice. All right. So now we're going to go to Joelle and just jumped. And she said, would it be better to concentrate on magnets for BookFunnel through campaigns? Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Joelle, do you want to come off mute and ask your question or type it in again in a different way?
You can turn your camera off if you're shy. We won't hold it against you.
Okay, we'll wait if she wants to type that in.
Okay.
So, wait. Oh, so Joelle says only first books or magnets only.
No, we have authors that do promotions for all kinds of things. I would generally, when you're doing group, so swaps can be a lot better for like if you're like later books in a series, particularly if you have books that don't always have to be read in series order, right? We see this a lot with like cozy mysteries. Technically, you can read the books in order, but you can also kind of jumble them up and just pick your favorite mystery and kind of read that. And so we see more of that with author swaps. Group promos generally do work best with first book in series or a magnet, because the goal is to get you're getting your books in front of readers who've never heard of you and have never read anything. So at least, especially in like fantasy, when I read, there's no way you're going to understand book 5 if you haven't read the first 4. Like everything is written to be read in order. So
Right.
you don't have to. We didn't really talk about, because it's not technically about building newsletters, but BookFunnel also has what we call sales promotions. And so you can run group promos for sales where everybody in the promo is doing whatever the sale is. So it might not be book 1 in your series. It might instead be, it's book 4 in my series, but it's 99 cents this weekend. So I'm in this weekend only, I'm joining in this promo that is all about 99-cent great reads on Kindle or whatever. So sales promos, you can probably push later books in the series, particularly if you have one on sale and you mark the others in the series for sale as well. You can do promotions like that. But when it comes to building a newsletter, you're going to have far more success with either a magnet, or if you have a deep running series, give them the first book, right? You don't even need the magnet at that point. If you have a longer running series, you're much better off just giving them the first book in the series. You're going to get a lot more uptake. You'll get more readers picking up your book than picking up the rest of the magnets. And if you already have a series to sell them, great. I'll give you the first book for free. I've got 8 other books to sell you.
Nice. All righty. So we are past the hour. Damon, fantastic. Ton of great information in there. I got a lot out of this. So, and it's all about me because that's why I'm here. So happy to learn. I do want to tell people, just in case you don't know, so in Fictionary, on our Celebrate Success space. So when your book comes out, put it up there and put the link there with your cover, because we've got over 4,000 members in this community. So put them up there, put it in the genre group if you want. If it's a particular genre, we have genre spaces. And the other thing we're doing, so for people who are Fictionary Live subscribers or have had a story coach edit, we will put your book out on our big mailing list. Get your own individual mailing list. Elaine Canyons is about to come out, I think, on the 26th or 27th of this month. She's got a new book coming up, so she's the next one on our list. Bert, who's here, her book came out, I think, last week. We put hers out. So we're really trying to help people, get exposure on the network that we have. So on that note, Damon, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We couldn't have asked for more. So yay. And anyone who's thinking about getting their book out there, go and use BookFunnel because it's awesome.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right. Bye, everybody.